Yesterday, Miguel Indurain highlighted the dangers of the Tour de France and the reason why no leader, however dominant, predicts his impending victory in Paris. Indurain survived this frightening moment on the descent of Mont Ventoux. Overall, though, he still has a comfortable margin, but the next 5 riders have every reason to fight out the battle for second place. Now it's on to the Alps as the field, shrinking every day, leaves Valréas, destination Alpe d'Huez. On the way, 2 stepping stones. The first, a new climb to the event, the Col de Menée, rising to 1,402 meters after 122 kilometers covered. Then, with the legs nicely warmed up, it's down and up again, this time onto the tough climb of the Col d'Ornon at 1,371 meters after 195 kilometers covered. Back down to the valley below and into the village of Bourg-d'Oisans. The final ascent start of Alpe d'Huez, taking the riders to its finishing line at 1,860 meters. And the man who conquers the Alpe first today will have the undoubted honor of stepping out here and saluting a very knowledgeable public indeed. Now, Miguel Indurain has dominated this year's Tour de France ever since he took the yellow jersey in the time trial. So last night we asked him, was there still anything he feared in this year's race?
La montaña, ¿no? La montaña Alpe d'Huez, Val Thorens, Plus. Son etapas, 3 etapas de Alpes muy duras. Si hace el calor que está haciendo ahora, va a ser etapas muy duras, muy difíciles. A ver que ver las fuerzas como están. Eso es lo peor de esta última semana.
Well, if Miguel's worried, pity the rest on this tough day in the Alps. One rider I don't expect to see too much of today is Eros Poli after that long breakaway yesterday. But what about the weather, Paul?
Well, after all the heat, Phil, the day is going to be very cloudy and temperatures dropping on the way up the Alpe. It could be also raining when the riders get to the top and as cold as 15 degrees Celsius.
And down below, a breakaway that formed after only 14 kilometers today. There were 14 riders then. They've led throughout the day. The maximum lead has been in excess of 12 minutes. And we're now approaching the first part of Alpe d'Huez. The last time check we got, the breakaway was losing ground, but it's still in excess of 7 minutes. Now, there's only 12 of them left, and let me give you the names straight away in this leading breakaway as we watch here one of the 2 Kelme riders ask for a drink. And this rider is Camargo, the Colombian, who launched a tremendous attack on the Col d'Ornon, which shook out 2 of the riders in the breakaway, Thierry Gouvenou and Giorgio Furlan. They're not here, so we're down to 12. Latest time checks coming up, 8:44 they're saying. Charlie Motte has gone clear on the top of d'Ornon. He's been joined by Ralph Aldag and also by one other rider. There's 3 of them chasing there. And then we go back about another half a minute to the field. So the breakaway members are Roberto Conti, Perini of the ZG team, Roberto Elli of the GB team, Buena Hera from Kelme, Yogi Muller of Mapai, Roberto Torres of Festina, Bruno Kengialta from the GVIS team, Camargo we've just seen also from the Kelme team, Santa Ramita from ZG, Udo Boltz from the Telecom team, and Ronan Pensek of the Novamai team. This is the scene now, Paul, as we start the climb. Now, the big question we're all asking, can they survive to the top? But look how they spread eagle the field already.
This is the climb up to the first corner of the Alpe d'Huez. Then they'll see the sign 21 corners to go. That's the scary thing about this mountain. You get a time check or a corner check all the way down, counting up to the top here in the Alpe d'Huez. And it looks as if we've already got an explosion in this group that's been together since the early kilometers of today's stage. And the 2 men setting the pace at the front are in fact Roberto Conti and Alberto Elli.
As we see on the inside, we've got Ellie setting the pace. Conti, well, Paul Sherwin has a feeling that Conti might be the man to watch out for in the pink jersey to the right here. He is a well-proven climber and a very good rider in previous Tours de France.
Well, those 2 riders were excellent yesterday. They were in fact able to finish with Miguel Indurain, but one rider who hasn't done a great deal of work today, in fact, is this number 96, the Festina rider, who is Roberto Torres. He was at the front of the race a couple of times through the last few mountain stages, and he hasn't contributed at all to the work of today's breakaway because he's been playing the soldier for the Festina squad.
Well, Udo Bolt, number 134, has certainly taken, and he's actually going to try and liven this up a little bit because he's gone. Bolt has put in the first attack on the first corner here. It's very steep at this stage, Alpe d'Huez, and it goes on for a few corners at a great gradient of about 1 in 9 before it shallows out a little bit. And that's a very good acceleration by Bolton. He's going again, and Conti's quick to realise it too, and Torres goes on the far side. So Torres, the pure climber, has issued an acceleration that the others must now follow.
Well, that was a great move by Torres, and he's the man, as I said, who's not put a great deal of work in, but in fact it is Roberto Conti who's made the counter. They were attacking on the left and the right-hand side of the road, and Conti, who I thought for quite some time was going to be one of the strongmen of the break today, has gone clear.
Well, it's a delight to watch a pure climber in action, and Conti is a great climber, and he's now trying to hurt the others by lifting the pace and the tempo that little bit. And he won't ease up until he feels he has a workable gap, and maybe some will join him, maybe none will join him. He's made the attack right at the base of Alpe d'Huez. Now there's a sign of confidence.
Well, that is a sign of confidence, because it's a 13-kilometre climb, which is nearly 7 miles to the top of this mountain here, and there are a lot more corners to go, and it's very tough at the bottom part of the climb. The straights are quite long and very steep, and then as you get halfway up, you can actually put your gearing up a little bit, because the mountain levels out a little bit before, with about 3 or 4 kilometers to go, you go round a corner and you can see the Alpe d'Huez right at the top of the skyline. But a brave move by Conti at the moment.
Well, it's unlikely that Conti will damage the lead of Miguel Indurain, but you know, he's starting this climb at the lead of 9 minutes over the majority of riders ahead of him and behind Miguel. And if he hangs on to a good advantage by the top, then he could find himself tonight in the top 3 positions overall. Now, surely that will cause a reaction from the main field when word gets back. You get some idea here of the size, of the steepness rather, of the slope of Alpe d'Huez. Paul Sherwin alongside me can, well, his legs are probably aching now. He's climbed this climb 7 times in his period of riding the Tour de France. And Paul, I'm sure you remember the day in the 1970s, late 1970s, early 1980s it was, when we actually climbed this mountain 2 days in succession.
Well, that was a horrendous experience. We raced up it the one day, and then the following day we were taken down to the bottom by car, did a 70-mile loop, and the finish was back up to the top of the Alpe d'Huez again. And to cap that all, the next day was a rest day, and part of our warm-up was in fact to go down the Alpe d'Huez and ride up it again. But that was a pretty horrendous year to come up this mountain so many times.
So as we race into Bourg-Glazon, it looks like Stephen Hodge of the Festina team, the workhorse now, trying to get his men to the foot of the climb when he'll drop away from the bunch. But his thought now is to stop that man, Roberto Conti, getting too much time. Here he is, because he would damage the Festina positions of Richard Virenque and indeed Luc Leblanc. So Stephen Hodge playing the team man now to try and launch his men at the climb. Here's Conti. He's opened the gap, Paul, and now he's got to settle in and suffer a bit more to hold it.
Just got one time check of Roberto Conti over the main pack at the moment. He's got 8 minutes and 50 seconds lead. So if he can just keep going and not crack as he gets towards the summit of this mountain, he's going to walk away with a great advantage today, and he will move up definitely into the top 10 in the overall standings, and it may well be that it'll be 5th or 6th by the end of today.
So there is a lovely view of Alpe d'Huez. We have an Italian on the tack, Roberto Conti. He's just left the other 11 riders behind. The gap overall is about 9 minutes to Indurain. Lower down the slope, we're seeing the explosion that's taken place in that breakaway. That's the ball head of Perini there, who is in all sorts of trouble. I think he's riding behind Udo Boltz, who put in that wonderful attack at the bottom and paid the price in full. He was immediately dropped by that leading group. Now Gerard Rouet, the man who's going to set the pace for Miguel Indurain. I think we've got Oscar Pelliccioli just behind Indurain, but no sign of the man I expected to see there is Jeff Bernard.
I'm surprised I couldn't actually find Jean-Francois Bernard. This is a man, Thierry Marie, who was in the breakaway for a long period of time earlier on.
Well, he's gone. And as we see the riders on the climb, Gerard Rouet sets the pace. The polka dot jersey on the right is Richard Virenque. Alvaro Mejia is there too. Haven't seen too much of him this year, but he's still the best placed rider for Motorola as Conti goes under the 10 kilometers to go banner. That's 6 miles to the summit.
He's a man who actually finished 4th in the Tour de France last year, but really it's hardly been seen at the front on the climbs this year. But I think you have to bear in mind that this has been a very, very difficult Tour de France. Olivier Rincon, who won a mountaintop finish in the Tour last year, was unable to finish the Tour de France. In fact, he abandoned this year. There's so many riders have been totally wasted by the difficulty of the first 15 days of the Tour.
Well, now we're looking here at Angel Camargo, the Colombian. And Pantani on our right here as we look at the picture in the white jersey. He's attacked all the time in the mountains, but he's always had riders ahead of him and no result that he would have liked coming his way. And today he seems to be taking it easy, because tomorrow, of course, is another severe day in the Alps. We go to Valréas, and that is a very, very hard day indeed. And it may be that some of the riders don't want to push themselves on Alpe d'Huez. Psychologically, this is the tough mountain. I'm not too sure what's going on in the bunch there, but I think one or two of the riders might well have been arguing, and while they were, Pantani decided to wave goodbye again. This man is incredible. He's launched another attack.
Well, one of the superb climbers that we've spoken about him so many times is lying in 6th place overall at the moment, and I'm sure he would love today have been fighting out for the stage victory at the top of the Alpe d'Huez, because this really is a shrine, this mountain, for the climbers of international cycling. But what he's trying to do at the moment is to get rid of the riders in front of him in the overall standings. He wants to move across his own teammate Pulnikov. In fact, the man to react is Richard Virenque, the leader of the King of the Mountains classification at the moment. He is a little bit worried, I think, by Pantani, because there are so many points still available in that competition, and he has to match this man who is an exceptional climber.
This is the second man on the circuit, as far as we know, Ronan Pensek, as he tries to ride. He's riding about 40 seconds behind the leader on the course, Roberto Conti.
He looked to me very much like a broken man, and I don't think it'll be too long before he is overtaken by some of the attacks that are going on behind.
Sharp hairpin bend here, and this is what was the main peloton at the start of the climb. I make it about 17, 18 riders left in contention there as they now climb towards the summit. The race now down to inside 130 riders today from the 189 that set off from Lille at the start of the Tour on July 2.
And two good riders again having to call it a day. Lordolino Cubino, who was an excellent rider in the first part of this race, and I thought he was going to ride well in the mountains, and another rider who should have been a great mountain climber, Oliviero Rancon, who won the big mountain stage last year up to Andorra, and this year was unable to come up with the goods. An explanation and a reason why the Tour de France has been so hard. I really think it has to do with the heat, because the heat that reigned over the first 15 days of this Tour de France was really quite excruciating for the riders, and many of them unable to recover.
Well, it's a pity we're not seeing pictures of Marco Pantani, because he is going past the riders in that breakaway that were with us at the start of the climb, and as I speak, I think we've got him here. Here we are, and now you can see the difference in the speed. This man is travelling up the mountain. He really is a young talent, isn't he? I know he's got a bald head. He's only 24 years of age, and he is a superb find, and I think one of the real pure climbers. We've seen lots of strong men like Indurain, Paul, but we don't see Indurain as a pure climber. But here we seem to have a fluid man in the mountains.
Oh, he really is, and as I said a couple of days ago, the pure climber, the race of climbers, really has disappeared from the sport of cycling, and they've come back over the last couple of years, and this man is one of the most incredible climbers I've seen since Lucho Herrera came onto the scene, the Colombian riders, and it's so rare nowadays to have a European climber that we're quite shocked by the revelation of Marco Pantani, who walked away from the field in the Tour of Italy this year, taking two of the big mountain stages and almost taking a third one, but I think a little bit due to lack of experience and maybe some bad advice from his teammate Claudio Chiappucci, who made him attack 100 kilometers from the finish into a block headwind, and that really was quite a silly move, because if he'd waited, I'm sure he could have taken that stage as well.
And so it's under the 4 kilometer now for the leader on the course, Roberto Conti. He made his attack soon after Alpe d'Huez began, and it looks like he could be his stage now. Pantani, although chasing from the Indurain group, is still a long way behind him on the day. He's given him, I think, again, too much head start over the mountains. And Virenque is gaining time on Indurain, the first man to do so, I think, since he took over his yellow jersey in the time trial. Starting the day, Virenque 7 minutes 56 seconds back. He's about a minute ahead on the road now, so we're going to see the first reduction of Indurain's overall lead in the Tour today. This is Pantani, and you can see ahead yet another one of that breakaway, originally of 14, 12 when we started the climb of Alpe d'Huez, and now coming back to him. It's been shattered all over the lacettes of this mountain today, and Pantani just keeps his rhythm up out of the saddle, then sits down and keeps the revs high, and another one going back. It looks like Thierry Marie, in fact, we're about to pass.
Well, Thierry Marie did a great ride today, being in that group of 14 riders, and it's quite strange to see him so far to the front of the race in the mountains, but the fact that he managed to get into that early breakaway gave him a good start at the bottom of the Alpe d'Huez. But looking at the way that Marco Pantani is riding up the mountain here, I feel he must have in the back of his mind, a regret that Claudio Chiappucci didn't stay in the race long enough to be the captain of the team Carrera, because he surely would not have let a break go so far clear without a good Carrera rider being there, realizing that Marco Pantani must have been one of the favorites for this stage victory today, because he's such a beautiful climber that he really could have taken this stage if they'd come together, all the field at the bottom of the Alpe d'Huez.
So with the leader now, 3 kilometers left to go to the finish. The Italian flags are flying now. Message has spread to the summit of Alpe d'Huez that an Italian is leading the way up. Only a third different Italian in the history of the race on Alpe d'Huez. The first was Fausto Coppi, the second was Gianni Bugno, and now we've got Roberto Conti and another Italian going under the 5 kilometer banner. So 2 kilometers separates Pantani from Conti, and there are still a handful of riders in between, dodging the way among the crowd on the way up to the summit. Still Gonzalez Arrieta here, pacing his man Indurain, whose face tells us nothing, but clearly not in the mood to counter the attack by Richard Virenque. Virenque is in front of him, but we don't know by how much.
Ronan Penzic cannot believe the speed with which Marco Pantani has gone by him. He realizes that this man started the climb 8 minutes behind him, and he's just totally shocked, I think.
Oh, superb. But the fact that Gonzalez is still setting the pace here tells me that this has been a rest day for Miguel Indurain, if you can call it that, and maybe a big assault is planned tomorrow when it is quite a terrible day in the Alps as we go to Val Thorens. Pantani still continues to move smoothly forward, and a little placard tells us they know him too here on the slopes as the Italian flag chases him up the slope. All Italians are running alongside him here, and he's found the strength to accelerate. Maybe he doesn't want the water down his neck, Paul.
May well not be, but now is a time when Miguel Indurain is going to take over the reins of the race, and he's going to start to set his own pace as they come out of the town of Huez de Oison. And there Miguel is at the front setting the pace there. It looks as if the Kelmi rider has just been swept up as well, and Pantani is eating his way past each one of these riders one by one as he goes up the slopes of the Alpe d'Huez. He's going to have a big regret tonight, though, that his Carrera team didn't take part in the chase to try and put it all back into contention. Look at this. As soon as Indurain goes to the front, puts the acceleration on, everybody is in his wake, and there you see Armand de las Cuevas has dropped off the back there, fighting to stay in contention. Pulnikov a little bit further down in 4th place there, hanging on as well.
Well, Luc Leblanc is trying to get a little bit better on de las Cuevas. Luc Leblanc only needs 33 seconds on this rider here, de las Cuevas, and they'll swap positions tonight, and Luc Leblanc will move up to 3rd. Leblanc gritting his teeth and hoping he can hang on, and so too de las Cuevas. He's gone. Now we go back up here. The rider second from the back here. In fact, he's gone in front of Zula in pink. That is Luc Leblanc. He is looking for 33 seconds tonight to take 3rd place off de las Cuevas. And it looks to me as though Zula is beginning to crack now as he watched the other 3 fly away behind that man who seems to have something special in his engine.
It really is an incredible rider, and very rarely have I seen Miguel Indurain ride so confidently either, because he really has been an exceptional rider in this year's Tour de France. He hasn't worried about the little accelerations of the climbers. Richard Virenque, don't forget, is a little bit further up the road. I would think about 30 seconds ahead of Miguel Indurain at the moment, but as soon as Indurain opened up the throttle, the group of 10 or 15 riders that were with him just literally exploded, and these are the last 2 riders who can stay with him. Luc Leblanc, number 91 in the blue jersey from the Festina squad, and the man here at the back, number 57, Vladimir Pulnikov, who at the moment is lying in 5th place overall, but it looks very likely he's going to lose that to his teammate Marco Pantani by the end of tonight.
So as we go back towards the finishing line now, an Italian is going to celebrate the victory here on Alpe d'Huez. The grimace has become a smile as Roberto Conti, and we think it's the first ever bike race he's ever won as a pro, and it might well be, because he's going to enjoy this. My goodness me, it's his 9th year as a professional. No signs of pain on his face now. It's been a brilliant climb of Alpe d'Huez for him. He's led from the bottom. The professional look over the shoulder to make sure they're not creeping up there, not they're miles behind. 6 hours, 6 minutes, and Roberto Conti keeps the Italian record here. He's only the 3rd Italian to win on the top of Alpe d'Huez, and he's going to cherish this memory for the rest of his life.
And I tell you what, Phil, he didn't look very tired when he came across the line, and this is the man further down the slope of the Alpe d'Huez, Marco Pantani, who is still flying up the slopes, and he must be the man who, if I'd had to put a bet on a rider winning the stage today, this is the man I'd have put my money on, Marco Pantani.
And Indurain just got the same gadflies he has every day in Vladimir Pulnikov and Luc Leblanc. He's blown the rest away now as he makes his own tempo. He never looks for help. He's had his team do that all of the way. Now he knows nobody will help him, and probably they'll try to nip round him too and take the top prizes of the day off him. But the crowd are crowding in again as we look now at Marco Pantani. He's in the safe barrier region now towards the top of Alpe d'Huez. We're not too sure whether he's climbing up in second or third place on the mountain now. We've seen one of the Kelme riders be passed by him. Bueno Hora was the rider we were told was second on the road. We've seen the other rider, Camargo, go down behind him, and I'm just wondering if in fact Bueno Hora has gone past him as well.
But I would expect probably that Alberto Eli and Bruno Cangialto are still somewhere in front there, because we haven't seen them get picked up at all so far. So Pantani is probably looking at fourth or fifth place on the road tonight, but Miguel Indurain doing a great job here. Once again, once it gets near to the summit, 3 kilometers to go for him. He's just putting the pressure on, and in fact, Bueno Hora has held on to second place.
And he comes home. The Colombian has given the Colombian television here something to shout about today as he swings into the finishing area. And he is in his first Tour de France. He wanted to win this one. He put in some great attacks early on, but he was outwitted by that superb attack by Conti. He's going to regret that now, but at least he'll finish second on Alpe d'Huez. The Kelme squad have had a great Tour de France. They had that wonderful win with Cabello down on the stage from Dover to Brighton when the race went through Britain. And now they're having another second place here. This is their second place on the stage as well. And he takes that 2 minutes and 1 second behind Roberto Conti. Onto the plateau of Alpe d'Huez now comes Marco Pantani. Richard Virenque is just behind him by about a minute, and maybe a bit more than that now. As looks as though Pulnikov is in the spot of bother now as he tries to hold on to the braces of Luc Leblanc.
It really is, but it looks as if Miguel Indurain has caught the riders in front. In fact, the car there is probably behind one of the early breakaways. That may well be Thierry Marie, who's getting gobbled up by Miguel Indurain. Thierry Marie is very rarely, I would think, seen Miguel Indurain this close to the finish of Alpe d'Huez.
Well, hats off to Thierry Marie, because it takes a courageous man to attack a stage when you know you don't climb so well. But he's now within his last 2 kilometers. Thierry is going to have a good finish tonight and a good time on the result board. This is Pantani, though. I think there are still quite a number of riders in front of him, but it's difficult to know just how many. Our cameras have been fully committed on the Alpe today because so many riders have been climbing by themselves. And this man is climbing with his own effort, but not by himself. This is Indurain, and as we go back now, Udo Bolt is one rider we never passed. Another one is Alberto Eli. They're lining up, so I make it Udo Bolt in for third place finish here with Eli. Eli was the man that got second yesterday. He might make it third today. Difficult sprint this. We've seen Greg LeMond misjudge it a couple of times, but come good in the sprint. Now Bolt is going to leave it as late as possible. It's still going slightly uphill. Watch behind. Perini is coming up as well. He's done a good climb today. This breakaway called the bluff of the big men today, and it succeeded as Eli takes on Bolt for the sprint finish, and I think Bolt is going to get it too, and he will. Good finish for Udo Bolt, and Eli gets fourth place, and Perini, when he gets to us, will be over the line in fifth. And finishing more than 5 minutes behind, but what a marvellous climb. And Marco Pantani crosses the line in 8th place, and he gained a little bit of time and a few more mountain points over Richard Virenque, who will remain the leader in the King of the Mountains. But Virenque gaining a few seconds today over Miguel Indurain, although he'll probably remain more than 7 minutes behind. The man who also lost time was Armand de las Cuevas, because Luc Leblanc finished with Indurain, and de las Cuevas lost time and will slip a place overall. So the word changes tonight, and Miguel Indurain loses a little bit of his lead. In fact, he concedes 35 seconds to Richard Virenque today, but I don't suppose he'd be too worried about that. In third place now is Luc Leblanc. Fourth is Armand de las Cuevas. He slips a place, and up into fifth place after his great climb today is Marco Pantani. And the winner, Roberto Conti, now climbs from the depths of the classification to 6th place overall, 9 minutes 57 seconds down. So you see, the Alpe had its say in this race after all. Tomorrow the race goes to Val Thorens. It's another difficult day in these mountains. And until then, I'm Phil Liggett for Paul Sherwin saying goodbye.